Hello, everybody. So, for those of you who are new, I am Helena, and that's what our weekly meetings look like. Except, obviously, I'm not going to take the actual meeting where you guys bring up your problems and have it go viral on TikTok the next day. So I have Stacy and Laura here who are going to help me reenact your questions. So if you guys can't make it, then you submit your questions and I'm going to use them in this meeting, and Stacy and Laura are going to help me. In this video, I'm going to address them by their real names, but just keep in mind that if you ask a question, that this is the form it's going to come in if you don't make it to the meeting. If you do, then obviously you're going to take the place of Stacy and Laura, and we're going to have a discussion just like this one. So today our subject is mom's guilt. And in the group, we've been focusing on the aspect of a stay-home mom's guilt. By the way, questions that you guys asked in the group are up for continuation of the discussion on these videos. So make sure if you don't come to the live video, don't get discouraged. Submit your questions, participate in the group, and we'll catch all the loose ends and post the video for you guys to watch. So again, subject is mom's guilt with a focus on stay-home mom. And we've had a pretty in-depth discussion in the group. In this video, we're going to go over some questions. Also, it will give you a very good high level but good idea of the approach, the method of what kind of things we discuss, how we discuss. So this is a really good introductory video for you guys to get an idea of what this whole thing looks like. So let's start with questions.
Yeah. So, Helena, what you say is that mom guilt is often related to the issue of our blocked potential in general, right?
All right, that's right.
And blockages in our potential are due to separation between our ego and our true self, right?
Yes, that's correct. And again, I'm not going to go into the details here way too much. We have a series of videos that explain the difference between ego and true self, but these are the concepts that we use a lot in the approach. And if you even go ahead and watch the general videos on ego and true self that I encourage you to do, you will understand that this separation between who you really are and the image that you're trying to live as, that being your ego, is the root of a lot of problems. I mean, it could be the root of, real problems such as not being able to get ahead in your career or, depression and anxiety, or it can be a root of small problems such as not using your potential. And I mean, it's not life threatening, but it's still causes you problems that you could have avoided. And when we talk about mom's guilt, that aspect also comes in a lot. That you not really using your potential plays not only in the fact that, well, you're not using your potential, so you could be better, but you're not, but also in all the negative emotions and all the struggles that people would never attribute to the issue of potential. Um, and these blockages of the potential the fact that your potential is blocked are related specifically to the issue of conflict with your shadow.
Yeah, so the conflict with the shadow, can you go over that again? Just really briefly refresh our memory on what exactly that is.
Sure. People in the group are familiar already with the concept of the shadow, which is a term that I'm going to explain. Um, it's part of, like we are saying, ego, true self, right? Those are terms. So is the shadow. And so when we talk about ego and true self, if you are who you are, um, and that is your calling, basically, because we were made in our uniqueness and who we were made to be for a purpose. So there is a lot of beauty, there is a lot of power in being who you are, because that's our basically calling and place in life. But when we start living as the image, we're living to please someone else, not fulfill our potential and calling, but to please other people. And that develops in early childhood. And usually, for the most part, the reason it develops, it's an attempt to avoid some kind of pain, or punishment. So the example that I use a lot in other videos, or other therapists use it because it's an easy one to understand. So let's say if you are a very inquisitive, very, flamboyant, very energy full child, um, whose parents are not so flamboyant and feel that, or maybe they don't have time, they themselves are depressed or, busy. And, the expression of curiosity and the expression of emotion is, something negative in their eyes. You're causing messes, you're taking up their attention, their time, you're loud. And so you're constantly told, don't, be quiet, don't go, don't dig, don't touch, go in your own. And so a person like that would grow up with the idea that self-expression is bad. Somehow it's punishable. You can be sent to your room, you're going to be yelled at, you're going to be possibly put down and humiliated. And so that person says, I can't say I am inquisitive, I can't be myself. It's not a good idea. I have to be this straight-laced, quiet, meek, very standoffish person. Kind of like, imagine an accountant. So this person was born to be an actress, but she self-identifies as an accountant because being an actress is bad, you know. And that's very high level explanation. Obviously, it gives birth to lots of questions like, well, so do you let your kids dig anywhere they want, and don't you have any discipline, which is a separate issue, and the answer is obviously no. And again, for the interest of time, I'm not going to go into those details here because it's like I said, it's a subject very much in and of itself, and very complex subject. But what I want you guys to walk away with is the idea of how that happens. And obviously there are degrees, from mild to very severe. And so when this actress self-identifies as an accountant, she starts living to please other people, her parents, who may have died years ago. But, that's the pattern that in her mind, she does not question. And then what would she do? She would take that actress part of her and put that part in prison. It's going to be locked up. It is not allowed to manifest itself because in her mind, that's bad, that's punishable, that needs to be kept under lockup. And, depending on what we're talking about and to what degree, people often equate that with how would I put it? Like crime almost, sin, something horrible is going to happen if you let that person out of, or that part of your personality, I should rather say, out of prison. In another video, we discuss, if that self-expression takes um, the form of expressing your need for attention, and need for attention and sexuality go very close. So people like, oh, I'm going to be a prostitute if I do that. And the answer is obviously no, that's a misunderstanding. But again, that's a separate subject. There is a separate video or series of videos on this. For our discussion, just keep that in mind, that there are a lot of misconception. That's where your mind's gonna go. Don't let it. That's not what it is. What it is that you take part of yourself and you lock it up, and you fear that that part is a big, huge dragon, and if you let it out, it's going to destroy everything in your life. And it does have that power, by the way, but not if you let it in terms of your potential. Um, and so if you just keep it locked up, as opposed to understanding it, accepting it, and using its potential, then that dragon is bound to break out somewhere, somehow, and really, wreak havoc on things, because you can't hold it in. You can't hold it in, any part of yourself any more than, you can hold in poop and pee. You can do it for so long, eventually it's gonna manifest itself, and probably at the most an opportune moment. But that's what we do, and that's why we have nervous breakdowns, that's we have crises, and so on and so forth, because we think we can shove our dark side into prison and keep it there, but we cannot. And so when we talk about mom's guilt, in the group, we discuss it also in the aspect of shadow. It does come in, and that's where I explain in a little bit more detail how it does come, how it comes in, and how you handle those kind of things properly. But that's been a pretty much long-winded explanation. Basically, what the concept of shadow is, it takes us right back to ego and true self. It's when you're living someone else's life.
Right. That's where I was going with this. So I have a question.
Sure.
I understand all those things about not blaming yourself, doing your best, etc., etc. But what really plays into my mom guilt is not what I think or what I tell myself. It's my husband.
Oh, okay. And by the way, blaming yourself, doing your best is obviously part of the discussion on mom's guilt as well that we address. That's not part of the shadow, per se. But anyway, so your husband is what plays into your mom's guilt, right?
That's right. I can feel pretty accomplished during the day. Like I was present. I had a connection with my kids. I stayed on top of the chores. But what really irritates me the most is that when he comes home and acts like, dude, I've been working all day type of thing. So he supposedly deserves to kick back, sit down, and do nothing. And in his perception, I did nothing significant all day while he was killing himself at the real job, right? So I have no right to sit down.
Have you tried to bring this up to him at all?
Well, Stacey, that's the thing. If I were to bring this up, it makes things a lot worse because now I mean, he starts pointing the things that I didn't do. Like, oh, there are still dishes in the sink. Or look, Joey's diaper is sagging. Why don't you change him in time? It's like I'm supposed to be everywhere on top of everything 100% of the time. And the moment I slack off, I am being lazy or I don't care or check it out. I do nothing all day. Like everything I've been doing suddenly gets wiped out by the fact that I missed one little thing, and not even missed, by the way. I mean, just physically can't be everywhere.
Yeah, that's right. And unfortunately, I have to say that is pretty common story for a lot of stay-home moms. Again, in the group, we do discuss different aspects that come with being a stay-home mom, because you don't get up and go to work and you don't earn money. So it's normal, common, what would you say, understandable, I guess the word, to feel inadequate because you don't have a real job. And somebody else and reinforces that, that obviously it's not a good situation. Another thing that plays into mom's guilt is that you never are able really to finish what you have planned or even plan. Let's say, hey, I'm going to do my laundry right after I get cooking dinner. And then your baby wakes up and you're just not having it. You have to tend to the baby. He's crying, he's clinging. So you cannot go ahead and do laundry as you planned. You can't plan. Or if you started doing it and the baby wakes up, same thing applies, and you can never plan something and execute the plan, and you can never start something and finish it, really, or not always, very often not. And so if we take this in general, what do we call people who never plan things or can't plan things? And what do we call people who start something and never finish? Irresponsible, airhead, you know, something to be looked down at. So even though that's something that you don't do deliberately, that's really not part of who you are, that being part of the situation, that's kind of the projection that your mind gets. So again, this comes into guilt. Hey, I'm being irresponsible. I am being, inadequate, um, and disorganized, whatever it is. That's what reinforces it. By the same token, because you always talk to 2-year-olds, whatever age the kids are, that's very dumbed down conversation, and oftentimes answering obvious questions such as, Mom, why is the plant green? Well, I don't know. It's just green. And then the next question would be, what are you doing with the water? I'm watering the plant. Should have been obvious, but it's just how they are. And so, when we cannot have an intelligent conversation, by the same token, as I've explained, with the association of being disorganized and with not being able to plan, when you can't have an intelligent conversation, that makes you stupid. So again, when you know you're not stupid, but you're in a position of acting stupid, the guilt is going to set in, and you're gonna, guilt yourself for that. And obviously, lack of appreciation for what you do, like what you've described, Laura. I am the breadwinner, and I don't know what you did all day, but you obviously sat on the couch because there are dishes in the sink and there's, dirty diapers in the living room. And, they feel free to say that. And that, unfortunately, is really something that makes mom's guilt, that makes it arise to the point of a problem, a psychological problem. And, those former issues can and do get addressed. But this last one accounts for the 80% of the weight of mom's guilt. So in the, feeling of, not being able to finish, and feeling of stupid, and, all other, other things that we do go over in the group. There is a few more of those. those can be addressed by changing how you do things, which is issue management, which is another separate subject that we have videos on that I encourage you to watch about, the core change versus issue management. But when it's somebody else's input, like what you're describing, once you bring another element in the picture of your husband now there, so that really cannot be solved with issue management, which what most therapies are based on only, just that. um, and, unfortunately, that's the 80% of the problem that cannot be solved with issue management. So, Laura, we've got sidetracked a bit into this general discussion from what you were going to ask. Why don't you restate your question? It's my fault, I deviated. We left off at your husband, he plays a lot into your mom's guilt. And this factor, as I said, is statistically an 80% contributor for everybody, pretty much. But I feel there was more to your question, right?
Yes. So I understand all about the contributing factors and all the theory behind it. That's all fine. But I'm more into how to deal with it. I mean, the practical side. So if it's my husband who is causing the problem and not just him personally, but like you said, 80% of them are like this, then how in the world do you deal with the issue? I'm sort of becoming a single mom.
Laura, do you feel that would, be a solution to mom's guilt?
No, I was just kidding, obviously. But how is it related to my potential when it is him and what he is doing?
All right, so let's take it step by step. So it irritates you that your husband does not take upon himself any responsibility in helping with the kids, right?
That's right. And, they're his kids too. I've been thinking about this a lot, actually. I always wanted to be a mom. Now it feels like I'm almost bored staying home with the kids. Like, I need something more. Like, I'm locked into this. I can have anything besides the home life, and he is free to come and go freely as he pleases and partake of the life that's out there.
Okay, so how would you describe a person like this, like him?
Like, someone taking allowances for himself, carefree like,
Okay, what else?
um, free to do what he wants.
I'd say someone who doesn't give a rip, so to say, maybe.
No, not really. I wouldn't label him as a person who wouldn't care. It's more like a typical man. Like, man's job is to go to work, woman's job is to take care of the house. Like, why do I need why do I need a wife who doesn't care about my home and my kids? But I can't make the home and the kids, whom I love dearly, by the way. I refuse to make these things the only things in my life. Does this make sense?
Yeah, definitely, understandable. Now let's think back on your life in general. Who and where was telling you that it's bad, evil, and unacceptable to take allowances for yourself, to be free to do what you want, to even Stacy not care sometimes about whatever you choose to not care about, including whose role it is to do what.
I think I think that was my dad actually. But it's not like I was ever told that I cannot have a life, even an easy life. But everything piles up on me here by itself, regardless.
And what was your dad's lifestyle in general? Like hard, easy?
Uh, Not sure how it was deep down, but from a casual impression as a kid, I think everything was fine. But I see where you're going with this, giving yourself permission.
That's right, Stacy. Can you remind us from the group discussion what giving yourself permission means?
Yeah. I know it has to do with the difference between your conscience telling you something and then your ego telling you something. Can you refresh that a little bit here?
Exactly. So as I mentioned earlier, when we put part of ourselves in a dungeon, we are afraid, we're sometimes desperately afraid of that energy because in our mind it's something evil. It's punishable, it causes pain if it gets out, it can create a lot of problems, it's objectively wrong oftentimes in our mind. But what you gotta remember, what I have said in other videos, and I'm going to say it again, think about it. A rapist and a loving husband are using the exact same potential, the exact same energy, but the result is absolutely different. It's devastating in one case and it's upbuilding in the other. And obviously I'm talking the sexual intercourse here, but think about it. It's the same act, the same potential, the same energy. It's how you use it. And energy is energy is energy. It's like electrical energy. You can electrocute someone or you can turn on the lights. It's like nuclear energy. You can make a nuclear bomb and drop it on innocent people, or you can make a nuclear power plant and have cheap energy as long as you're maintaining it. Energy is energy is energy. It's not in the energy itself. And so when we're afraid of a certain part of our potential, of a certain energy, it's unsubstantiated fear because, like I said, energy is energy. Where it becomes evil is when we misuse it. But that's where our conscience comes in. And that is kind of ace mastery of the psychology that, again, we're not going to go into this video of how do you tell one from the other. So suffice it to say is that when we talk about when we were talking about here is that, hey, husband comes home and he will not participate, he will not engage with the kids, and because he is not doing it, it's very easy for him to dish out the derogatory remarks because he's never experienced what it's like to do it. So anything we haven't done is easy, unless we actually start doing that. But somehow, in the woman's mind, kind of like deep down inside, it's almost the way it's supposed to be, in a sense, because you're letting him do this. You kind of deep down roll along and don't object to this because that part that irritates you in him. And that, by the way, is one of the telltale signs of shadow being in prison is when you deny part of yourself. That particular quality is going to irritate you when you see it in others. So when you look at him and you say, ooh, it just angers me that he can do whatever he wants, because you're not letting yourself to do whatever you your mind just does not even go there. Again, let's not go into those details. In the interest of time, we will discuss it further in the group in the other videos. But this is where the shadow concept comes in. Accepting your dark side And we usually inherit it as our part of childhood trauma. That's why I was asking about the dad part. And if not trauma, then at least bad baggage in terms of viruses of the mind, as we term them. Wrong learned behaviors, false concepts that we accept without questioning, and so on.
Yeah, but anyway, I was going to ask about giving permission here. I have to carve out my permission to kick back and get some rest in an uphill battle every single time. Unless the house is spotless, cell phone use is not allowed. But I don't think I have an issue with giving myself permission to do this. It's my husband who has an issue with me doing this. Wait, is he reflecting something?
Uh-huh. Now you're onto something. And again, people who are in the group know what Laura just got on to, and what reflecting is. And the concept behind that, for those of you who missed that or who are new, when we act a certain way, when we either establish certain boundaries or don't establish certain boundaries, when we have certain expectations versus not having any certain expectations, we we project that to other people around us, and they will reflect that behavior back at us. And that pattern's always there. A lot of times we're not aware that it's there. We're kind of like totally clueless that it's going on. But if we start paying attention, we will notice that. Like for instance, a common, very common that everybody knows is the guys complain, you know um or let's say the other way around, every woman's like, gee, every time I have a period he turns into a jerk. Well, it's not just your perception, but because you're projecting irritability, they're going to project irritability back. If you go, let's say you walk into a room and you start, telling everybody, turn off your cell phone, that's too loud. Don't do this, don't talk like this. Then those people are going to start telling you next time you look at your cell phone, hey, I thought cell phones were not allowed. And Laura, I'm not insinuating that that's your situation here, of you telling him that. It's just kind of a coincidental example. But let's say it's talking too loud. If you tell everybody to be quiet, every time you speak up after that, they're bound to tell you don't. Um, what is going on here obviously is not you acting in this a particular described way. Let's get into that. Stacy, would could he possibly be reflecting here?
I'd say the fact that Laura is not really, giving herself permission to take the rest, or at least does not have enough energy and strength to defend that boundary.
Right, exactly. So if you he told you that cell phone use is not allowed because the house is not clean, and you told him to go get a mop and a rag and make the house clean because you worked all day with the kids, what would happen? But different, and you're probably thinking, hey, our dynamics are, not conductive to that, which is understandable. And I'm not saying that this is something you can implement overnight, because you can't. You objectively can't, because if there are certain dynamics of your relationship, you can't change them like this. You have to change them slowly, and you have to, it's like, they get used to you being a certain way, and once you start changing, obviously you're going to have a pushback. So that dynamic is going to be there. So it's not a quick process. But it all starts with you giving yourself permission to do that. Because if deep down inside it's not okay to do what you want, it's not okay to be carefree and, not care about what your house looks like, that this is what gets taken advantage of here. This is why you can't stand up to him. And standing up goes a long way. In fact, let me show you a clip, you guys. It's not related to mom's guilt, but it is a good illustration of how you not taking things can change the whole dynamics and turn them around. So let me share my screen here. And it's a very quick clip that I want you guys to watch. So here it comes. Let me know when you can see my screen.
Yep.
And if you can't hear the sound, then holler at me.
Where's my phone?
You never gave me your phone.
I gave you the phone.
When?
Babe, I gave you my phone.
No, you didn't.
I'm gonna beat your ass.
You're gonna beat my ass.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just
Kaya nga bien
babe,
tough, right? Vamos a ver quién de verdad te va a beat your ass. Yo te voy a beat your ass.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
I'm sorry.
Anyway, the point here being is that when we see the first couple seconds of that, usually how it goes, it's an abusive situation. We're dealing with a guy who is arrogant, who feels, the world owns him a living, that everybody's responsible for his personal belongings and his cell phone and whatnot. But the moment she's not taking it, the dynamic changes 180 degrees. And so same goes for cell phone use is not allowed. He doesn't have any pushback. You kind of, deeply down agree that, yeah, house should be clean. And this is why this is the first step that I emphasize in these things. Number one, you can't change things overnight. I understand your dynamics are what they are. You can't change them overnight. It's a lot of work, don't get me wrong. But if you don't start doing the work, you'll never finish. And the work starts with your own potential, awakening that potential of a woman who is independent, who can be carefree when she wants to, who can take rest when she wants to, who is free to ask for help, who is able to find the resources to pull it all together. So that's where the potential comes in, starting with giving yourself permission. But Laura, what kind of person would you be if you sat down and scrolled through your phone while your house is not spotless?
Someone who takes allowances carefree like.
Does that sound familiar?
Yeah, definitely. Someone who is free to do what he wants also, maybe. And there's secondary benefit to these.
Right, and this what keeps us in those patterns. Not only we lock that part in the dungeon because this is somehow evil, but because it actually does something for us psychologically. So what would be your secondary benefit here, Alora?
I'd say maybe being irreplaceable.
And how does it make you feel if you're being irreplaceable?
Proud of myself for being so strong, I guess. But what is wrong with that?
No, there's absolutely nothing wrong with feeling proud of yourself and being strong. But the thing is that there has to be a balance. You can be strong in one place, but you need to be weak in some places. Because if you take 100% of everything upon yourself, then people will give it to you gladly. So you need to strike that balance of when you want to be strong, you can be strong. And when you want to be weak and carefree and not caring, that's okay as well. And this is how the shadow potential works, is that you can access both sides of you, the sides that are strong and go-getter and can do it all, and the side that is weak and needy, even, needs other people's help, needs compassion, needs to have things done for her, and find a balance in the middle. But as long as you lock the needy, carefree part away, that is not going to happen. And usually what happens in those situations is the stronger the woman becomes, the weaker is the man. It's again a separate pattern. There's reasons for that, but that is how it goes. And if it doesn't go that way, the other ones are even uglier. But okay, how else though?
Like I can handle everything, be everywhere. Like I mean, I am doing the right thing while others are not as good as me.
And I bet you want people to look up to you for that as well.
Right, and there's even a saying, hey, God couldn't be everywhere, so he created mothers, so everybody can relate to that. But as you can see, when you say, hey, I can handle everything, I can do it all, and I'm doing the right thing, so I know the right thing, other people don't. I'm the only one who knows the right thing, and they're not as good. So and then I want appreciation for that. And so what you're describing here, as one of the fathers of bioenergetics pointed it out, then when it comes to living in this image, what we're talking about, omnipotence, I can do everything, omniscience, I know better than everybody else, I know everything, omnipresence, I can be everywhere, and worship, I want people to look up at me. And all those are attributes of a God, as he said. So obviously, we've talked about that, God syndrome is very destructive for many reasons. But when you try to lock part of yourself away and you living an image, this is basically what you end up making yourself to be, is you go right into that God syndrome, which is very destructive and very counterproductive, and probably more punishable than any kind of dragon that could come out of that prison. So what does that boil down to? It boils down to the right balance of both potentials. Because as much as you think that, well, gee, it's so wrong for me to be, in our example, carefree, relaxed, lazy, even if we were to label it that way, it's no righter to have a God syndrome. In fact, it's very repulsive. It's very disgusting for people who come across with somebody who is 100% like that. So what a person does, the good approach in that is that you look at the situation, you see what irritates you in this, what hurts you, and you take this envy of the other person, like you said, gee, I envy that he is so free, I envy that he can do whatever you want, and change that into interest, curiosity, and ideas of how you can be that way as well. And so the shadow approach in itself starts with a trigger, what irritates you. Like he is carefree, he can do whatever he wants, that irritates you. Then you identify the shadow part. What am I denying in myself? What part of myself am I killing here that relates to those words? And And you know, maybe not so much in Mom's Guild, but in specifically shadow approach, what I have people do is put the most derogatory word you can think of on that part, you know, because that's basically what we're doing. So, you know, let's start by, you know, calling it the right name and then stepping over to accept that. So if you're carefree and you can do whatever you want, what does that make you? Lazy, uncaring, slob. Okay, lazy, uncaring, slob. Accept that in yourself. That's okay. Who told you it's not? This is how you identify the shadow part. And that takes you into the childhood, and you can see how that got developed. And then you determine your secondary benefit that keeps it there. Well, I can feel sorry for myself. I kind of earn myself the right to be worshipped, you know, even though I'm not getting it, you know, at least that's feeding that part. And I can be proud that I'm omnipresent and omniscient and you know, so the secondary benefit, as you can see, really does not do anything in reality, but it can feel good. So, next question. What would you lose on, Laura, if you cut off the shadow part of giving yourself permission to do what you want?
Normal life.
And what do you mean by normal life?
To live in balance for yourself and your family, to not feel deprived, to not be pressured into anything.
Exactly. And what would your ideal life look like then?
A balance between meeting my needs and helping other people meet their needs.
Exactly. Good. So imagine yourself living that ideal life. Like, close your eyes and you're there. This life is happening. Now, tell me how you feel and what it is looking like to you to live this life.
Well, let me see. I'm full of feeling, the feeling being myself. I feel right and free. I am full of energy. I love myself and I love the world around me, my family, my husband. Good things are happening in my life. I feel like I'm really cool, by the way. Like, I'm a great person, someone people want around, someone desired. Like, I'm the cool mom. The kids are the best kids. They have the best clothes. They are happy and smart. Everything is snapping together. Love life, house life, friends, family, the kids.
Excellent, right. But see, this is your true potential. What you've just described is your true potential. And they say if you can envision it, it can, and you know, it's kind of pre-programmed to become a reality as long as you bring your potential to life. So this is your true potential. And if you guys noticed, like Laura was saying earlier, is like, gee, you know, he comes home and I feel like, you know, I want more to life. You know, he's got a real job and, you know, he talks about this and I'm locked in the house and then the kids and, you know, I feel like I need more. And in what she just described, I'm not hearing, oh, I want to be a CEO of a company or I want my own business or, you know, I want, you know, to be a Hollywood movie star. I haven't heard any more to life than basically what she has, except with a lot more potential. Being the excellent mom, raising the excellent kids, having a loving relationship. So there's really nothing more that was added to the picture except the potential. Why is the potential not there? Because you know, first and foremost, usually it's the trauma that is holding things back. That's why we talk about traumas so much, because that's where it all starts, really, because if this damage didn't happen in the childhood, we would all be perfect human beings. Unfortunately, that's the evil of this world, that's how it all starts. But what do you do about this? And like I keep saying through the whole video, unfortunately, there is no one sentence answer to that. There is no simple solution. And in fact, if you think about it on the flip side, if you came to me and you say, hey, okay, I'm struggling with this particular situation in the relationship and life and potential and career, and I said, no problem, come to my seminar, and in 45-50 minutes it's going to be solved. Well, most of you would know that I'm a quack of some kind if I'm promising you that, because that's not a reality. If I could wave a magic wand and make things just happen, even in the same 45-50 minutes, I wouldn't be just called a wonderful counselor, I'd be called an almighty God. That's not the reality. Everything good takes time and it takes work. And so this is why you're here, hopefully, because you want to do this work and you want to take the steps. And I'm going to help you, but you're still the person who needs to do the work. And so work starts with the realization that it needs to be done. But here, on the premise of 80-20, that it's 80% of the other person contributing to the chaos, that starts with the right boundaries. You guys seen that clip? And so that's what you need to realize, is that if your boundaries change, if your rules, so to say, for what you take and what you refuse to take change, then that situation will change as well. I'm not going to play the clip again. You can go back and replay it for yourself, but I think it was pretty obvious, and you could see him go from her to, I'm sorry, in less than 30 seconds. So it does work. And before you can start shifting those boundaries, what you need to look at is at healing yourself and getting the energy to do it. Which is the energy of your potential to do it. And how do you start accessing that energy that's in you that can make those things happen, is the shadow part of starting to accept your true self and looking at your true self. So that's as far as we can go in this particular video, because how do you do that? Well, then there's a whole different, group and the whole different, workup therapy on accessing your potential or healing your wounds or learning about shadow. Like I said, unfortunately, that is not a quick thing. I can't. Nobody can cure cancer in 50 minutes. Nobody can cure childhood trauma in 50 minutes, unfortunately. But what I want to encourage you to do is set out on the journey to do so, because it's definitely doable. And we see people succeeding in that all the time, and enormous change happens. You just got to make that first step. Journey of 1,000 steps starts with the first one. And so what we will continue talking about in the Moms Guild group is other things associated with that and how you do it, basically. We are going to expand on a lot of subjects that I hit on today, because as you can see, there's a lot of it here to be covered. So hopefully you guys will all stick around and continue the discussion, submit your questions, and we can continue this conversation. I'm going to stop the recording here. Thank you very much for participation. Even if you didn't make it today, that's okay. Hopefully I'll see you next time. You guys have a great day.